And welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, November 9th, 2019. How's everybody doing?
Howdy, howdy.
Fantastic.
Hey, how's it going? Doing good.
And I just want to say we're open for business.
It never gets old.
Never.
Okay. This week we are trying Ubuntu Mate 1910. And so can I get a sound check from chat just to make sure we're all good there? Because, you know, we had some scary issues earlier in the burp stream.
It's good. I just checked it.
Okay. So we talked about it in the Europe edition, so you may hear some similar opinions, but we're going to talk about it again because that's what we do here. We talk about Linux. So, Deb, why don't you start out and let us know what you think about Ubuntu?
Well, it's obviously based upon the same Ubuntu that we tested last week. But the biggest difference for me was that this was so snappy. It was quick, it's fluid, there's none of that hesitation that I get from the basic GNOME desktop. And I guess for the first time in a long time, I've just realized once again why people like Ubuntu Mate. They offer lots of good utilities, and installing software is easy if you want to go to their software manager, or if you want to go to Synaptic or the command line. But then they've got this wonderful boutique, and I've just again reminded myself, because I was using it quite a lot this week, how handy. Hang on, if you're typing, can you mute yourself, please? So I don't know who that was, but so yeah, if you're using it all week and you suddenly think, oh, I forgot to load this up, just go into the boutique, go into the category you want, and it just works. Now we all laugh and joke, and the one thing that does bug me about it is the green. It is everywhere. But go into look and feel, and instantly you can turn it into a black dark theme. You can change the accents so they're not green. It's just wonderful. I'd forgotten how good it was. I hadn't used it for a long, long time. Compared with Ubuntu plain, I think it's at least 50% better, if not more. I really, really enjoyed using it this week.
Well, according to the release notes, there were a lot of little tiny bug fixes. Things that were not right, say maybe in the panel icons being different sizes. And like I said earlier, it used to be that Ubuntu Mate would have multiple icons in the system tray that were not the same size. Mm-hmm. You would find some that were really large and some that were really small. There was no way to get them all one size. But after upgrading my dad's machine, there was one icon that was smaller than the rest. So there's definitely been a lot of work done to the little things. And these are things that make it, to me, these are like the little paper cuts that make it or break it. And I think they've done a really good job at making it.
Yeah. Can you remember what that icon was that was the wrong size?
I'm pretty sure it was private internet access. That was the wrong size.
So this is where my question is it the distro's fault that it's the wrong size, or is it the software provider not meeting a given standard?
Chicken, can you enlighten us on that?
So, in theory, it shouldn't matter what sizes the application itself provides. They should be scaled by the panel itself, because it's impossible for an application to provide an infinite number of scales. So they should provide preferably an SVG rendered out to just various sized PNGs for ease of use's sake. And then the panel should choose whichever one to display and then scale it accordingly.
So it is the panel's job to make sure that they're all the same. Right, gotcha. Okay.
All right, moving on. Tyler, sir.
So I'm not going to take too much time, but most of the issues I had with Ubuntu Mate came down to a lot of the esoteric configurations that I wanted to do in terms of customizing the user interface. But I just wanted to add that outside of those esoteric issues, I had no problems with stability, no problems with performance, and I would not hesitate to recommend Ubuntu Mate to the type of user that I think ought to be using it or just wants Mate.
Yep.
So
I will say that we do have a lot of people here, so I appreciate people who want to, not put their opinion out real quick, but if it's something that you haven't tested or not done a whole lot with, then it's okay to just move on, because there are people. There's 25 or almost 24 people here that we gonna have to get in.
right, and I
In
kind
an
of already
hour.
gave my in-depth review on it on the Europe edition. So
Right. And if we have time, and if there's time, we'll go back and you can, give your normal feel of what.
Yeah, so it'd be good to just pick out either those really, really good points that you want to point out or things that caused you the most grief, rather than, because I know we're all capable of producing a nice 15 to 20 categorized list, but then we'd be here till 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So thanks very much indeed for that, Tyler. Aris, did you try it?
I did try it. I did go on the Europe edition. I guess I'll wait for everybody to go and then I'll talk. I want to add some things, but I guess other people haven't gone yet.
Lovely. Thanks very much indeed. Bill, I'm guessing you would just be all rose tinted glasses. So we'll leave you towards the end, or you can jump in when people have got problems that you know the answers to.
Copy that.
Great stuff. Tony, then, did you try it, my friend?
I did. I gave my spiel on the Europe edition. There's a couple of points I didn't make that I want to make, but I'll leave it till later if there's time.
Yeah, it's okay to go. I mean, if you want to do it real quick, do it. It's just that we'll circle back around. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I forgot to mention that I thought the Software Center, the Software Boutique, was brilliant. And it's the only distro I've tried in a long time that has the plank dock where the icons bounce properly every time you open something, rather than a lot of distros I've noticed they bounce, and then the bounce gets less and less and less until it stops. And then when you do a reboot, it goes back again and does the same thing. But it didn't happen on Mate.
Nice. Well, that's good. Yeah, like Rocco mentioned, the little paper cut, fixes, and that falls right in there for sure. Derek,
well, if they can fix it, why can't they do it on the other distros? That's my question.
Well, I wonder if that's a plank issue or if that's something that Mate.
Right. And so maybe it'll just take a little bit to trickle back into the other distros if that's something Mate fixed. So that makes
possibly
sense to me.
That was it.
Cool. Derek, did you get a chance to try Mate?
I did. Before I tried Mate on Ubuntu, I wanted to see what it was like on Manjaro, so that's my daily driver, and I wanted to compare the two. The Mate on Ubuntu works 100% better than the Manjaro version. I found it very easy to set up, and the layout switcher actually worked, where for some reason on Manjaro it didn't. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Cool.
That's
Is that Tony? I'm sorry, Derek. So was the layout switcher the only issue that you had on Manjaro that didn't work, or were there other ones?
That was the only one that I had that didn't work.
Okay.
It was weird. I don't. The panels didn't change at all on Manjaro's version.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so everybody's aware, Bill is going to be basically answering any questions, or if people have bugs or whatever, he would be the guy that we would normally talk to. You can jump in anytime, Bill.
Yep, makes sense. Chris, did you get a chance to try Mate this week?
I've been laid up sick most of the week and haven't had a chance to play with on the side with any computers, and barely got through work this week. So no, I did not. I did not take up the challenge.
Yeah, fair enough.
You're not the only one, Chris. There was a few people earlier talking about being sick this week, so hope you're feeling better, brother.
I'm on the mend.
Yeah, it's definitely that time of year. So, Vash, did you go earlier? Did you want to go now?
I'll cut down what I said earlier, but ultimately, I found that the Optimus switcher was super helpful on my laptop, and so that was good. There's a little minor thing on some of the styling, and it just like the buttons end up showing up on the left in the plank menu, but if you have them on the right in your other menus, it's just kind of strange. But I think that's just an application thing as opposed to anything else. The only other note I had is I was having an issue with the plank icon showing up in plank, and Bill sent me I apparently have to go and do the deconf editor, so I have to go take a look at that, and I just haven't had a chance yet. But that is overall, I mean, pretty good experience. It actually got my laptop Optimus to cooperate, so that's a big plus.
Excellent. Yeah, I've had great success across all the Ubuntus on my hybrid graphics in my laptop. I think I'm not sure if you're running the 435 driver, but the new on-demand profile for NVIDIA Prime in 435 works surprisingly well for me. So that's great. Hello, Mr. Nate.
Yes.
How are you?
Great. Super. Yeah. I ran Ubuntu Mate. I've been running it on Pine 64 for some time now, and I always have a good experience with Ubuntu Mate. And 1910 is no different. It was a good experience installing it. I really like, now mind you, I'm not big into the software centers. It's just not my thing. I realize I'm not the normal user. Most users that are normal like to have a software center because they come from the phone, but I don't like it. I like command line stuff. But so the Software Boutique, though, I think that is the best software center out there. I mean, and the added polish they put on it this time around with the animations, the smooth transitions, it really makes for a very fun, product-like experience. I do notice that Mate is a little bit heavier than Plasma or XFCE. Not a big deal. It's like by 100 megabytes or so. And everything installed fine. I played around with it for quite a while, and it's just an all-around good experience. So I think they've done a great job, and I hope they continue this trend because I think this is needed. For me, if I'm going to recommend a distribution to someone who I cannot give direct support to, Mint and Mate, Ubuntu Mate, are probably the two top distributions that I would say, because it's really approachable for new user, and I think that they do such a good job. So I did bring my rating system this time. I forgot to bring it on the European edition, so I give it 2 thumbs up.
Excellent. There you go. Well, and I have to say that the Software Boutique, right? It's not a software center. It's a curated list of apps split into different categories for those folks that haven't tried Mate. And what I love about that type of setup is it's a few dozen apps instead of all of the hundreds of possible options. And it's curated so that somebody put some thought into, for internet apps, what type of things should we show here? And I like going through it because there's some apps and there are suggestions of things that maybe I haven't tried in a while that remind me, hey, I should give that a shot because someone else thought it was worth putting here. So yeah, the idea of a curated list versus just a software manager, it is very appealing.
Plus, I believe it has some things in there that are not in the normal repo. It gives you easier access to them programs, so you don't have to go. It basically will. I believe there are some in there that still add up, but there's definitely some that weren't in the repos that are now easier, just one click install. Dan, sir, how are you? You have not been here for a while, so welcome back.
I haven't, and thank you. It's great to be back. Mate, yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a good week. It's not something I would probably run on a daily basis for maybe some obvious reasons. I don't know. But I do like it, and I like the fact that you can change the theme. You've got that switcher. I'm able to change it to the Redmond theme, and I can turn on Black Mate, color scheme, and I'm pretty happy with that. Actually, it seems that for me that's comfortable and it seems nice. I did enable the experimental ZFS and had no issues with that. That went really well on my laptop.
I was scared away from that because of
Mhm.
the warning that it might eat everything else on the drive.
Yeah, and so I wasn't afraid because I put it on testing laptop, so it was fine. If it ate the whole thing, that's what I've got it there for. So,
Right.
But yeah, I don't think I'd want to stick it alongside something else. That's probably ill advised, I guess, at this point. Maybe on a separate drive, but definitely not on a separate partition.
Well, I had thought about putting it on a separate drive, but I
Mhm.
still wasn't 100% sure it wouldn't eat it.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know whether Bill can tell us, but I'm pretty sure that you can't use ZFS if you've got other stuff on that partition. It will
Yeah.
just trash the whole thing.
It will.
Yes.
Yep. And so I was comfortable with that because I knew going into it, it didn't matter. I was going to take the whole drive anyway. So,
right.
That went well. And I like the concept. I like the idea of being able to do a snapshot on your file system, and if you had to, you could roll back. I mean, that's good stuff. I mean, other distros have been doing that for a while, so it's nice to see.
Just as a clarification for anybody who's wondering why ZFS is so impactful on your existing partitions and stuff,
Mhm.
ZFS is on a completely different layer than
Mhm.
most OSs typically install to. Whereas typically you could have something like LVM partitions on top, or you
Right.
could have the disk control partitions with partition table, GPT, MBR, whatever. ZFS is both the controller of the disk as well as the partitions on top of it in its own volume controller. So
Yep.
it kind of needs that whole system to be available to it.
Yep. And so it's good as long as you take all that into account. So
I think I'll leave that experimental for now.
That's what it says. But if it was your only system and that was all you had, it's a really good thing. So I mean, it's nice to see. Yeah, having the option is really good. Other than that, not much to report. It was pretty. Everything went well, so no complaints.
Very nice. All right, Joe, you're up.
Well, as we were talking here, I've been running it all week, and I decided tonight now to put the packages in about 25 of the different software programs I use, and it's already loaded about half from the time it got from Bash to me. It is. I do think it's a lot snappier than even before. I mean, what can I say? It's Mate. It's great. It's one of my first loves here. The one thing I noticed, and I don't know if anybody else picked up on it, when I was going through looking at the different software in the boutiques, you click on them, because I've been running flatpaks on my Mint here and stuff. It would tell you the platform, but it doesn't tell you the version or what it is. I don't know whether it's a flatpak, whether it's just a regular package, whether it's 2.8 for GIMP or 2.10. I mean, unless I'm missing something, I read through and I didn't see it anywhere. Is that something that anybody else noticed? I mean, it seems to have more in here than what I remember being here before too. The touchscreen works great. It's as polished as it ever was, and I do agree that the icons look like they're a little more balanced than what they were. But to me, it's those subtle changes that I think that we don't see. I didn't really break it apart like a lot of some of the guys do here. But can anybody, or Bill, can you answer that? Am I missing that there, like I said, you couldn't see what version of what you were running, whether it was just a repo or whether it was a flatpak or what was it?
So the current version of the Software Boutique does not show you which version, nor does it tell you where it's coming on the main page. Luke is working on an updated version that's going to be much more improved, and so he's been working on that for a good amount of time, and there's a lot that goes into that. And to go on to what Rocco said, some of the software that's in the boutique is set up to go get it from outside of the Ubuntu repositories. So there are some little things that are done in there that to get stuff out, but it's not a secret sauce. I mean, you go to GitHub, you can see everything, all the code is there. You can see exactly what's being grabbed and from where. So there's no there is secret sauce, but it's all open in the open.
Yeah, it was. I'm sorry.
A resident fan lady wants to jump in.
Yes, I would like to jump in for a second to answer Joe's question. I don't think, and I'm trying to remember, I don't think they ever put in the version number and so on and where the source is. I don't
remember
am I
that
correct,
either, but
Bill?
I thought for some reason I had the understanding that maybe that was going to be in there. Maybe it was my misunderstanding for it.
Yeah, but they've never had it in there, which to me sometimes kind of drove me nuts because certain things I like to have the latest thing.
Yeah.
And so I would have to then go and install it separately. I like the software boutique. It's really cool.
So if you do go into the software boutique and you go and open up the properties of it, it will tell you if it's where the source is. So if it's coming out of repositories or if it's coming out of let me try to find one here that's not going to be in the repositories. Like Google Chrome,
While you're looking
it'll
for
tell
that,
you.
I was going to say the other thing too is in talking to Martin last week too. I mentioned to him about the theming too, and he said they have been listening to everybody. That they may be working on trying to switch it up just a little bit in the future. That's my report. So.
Okay, cool. Again, if we can just, I need to be cognizant of there's some questions in chat as well. Bill, do you know if the new Optimus Manager does it on demand, or
Yes.
is it you have to switch it?
So you can set up. So there's 3 settings. I don't have my NVIDIA system open. So there are 3 settings. So you can have it on Intel, NVIDIA, or that you can have it set up to open up specific applications on demand where it'll be running Intel, and then it'll open up, let's say, Steam using the NVIDIA part.
Excellent. Thanks very much indeed for that. We'll get back to the other question in a minute, Rocco. Colin, I know you've done it, mate, because I've seen your really nice video on it.
Yes, Ubuntu Mate is just one of those distros that, for me, I can't really get into it much, but it is a good distro. But talking about what Joe was talking about, if you click on details in Software Boutique, it tells you where it's coming from. So there is a details button there, which I didn't even know either. I just had a look at it now.
No, I knew that was there, but it didn't have a version number or whatever. Because like GIMP normally
version
2.8, still in a lot of them, and that's all. It's not that it's a huge deal. I was just curious.
Yep. I actually think it's a really good distro. It's just not one that I've always ever wanted to run, but I can see why people would want to. It's really good for people, newer users and all other people, I suppose. But I've tried out their Optimus, the Mate Optimus. That seems to work pretty well. Still had screen tearing, but I have a little fix for that, and that worked okay. So I didn't have any, black screens or anything like that. So that seems to work pretty well, especially on this laptop, which sometimes can be troublesome for that. And I do like their welcome screen has not too much. It's not overwhelming. It has just enough in there to get you started. And the most important things, which is the getting started button with a lot of things in there. Although if you tick the box on install, most of those things are probably installed anyway under the getting started, not all of them. The software, I installed Etcher through the Software Boutique, and that installed pretty quick. I think that's the quickest Etcher I think is ever installed, to be honest. and it does a pretty good job of all those other things outside of the repositories. Only that one example, but it does a really good job of that. So, yeah, and I tweaked around with it. The only thing that I found was when I was the layouts work really good now. There doesn't seem to be any anomalies within the layout changing, which is good. Only with when I was messing around with saving themes, I saved the desktop background and that didn't save. So I don't know whether there's an issue there that they're aware of or not. There was a couple other things. I cannot remember them. Probably have to watch the video back, but it's... But I've themed it the way I like.
Video back.
Yeah, I'd probably have to watch my own video. It's just showing my age there, Rocco. Cannot remember everything now. So, but no, I've got it all set up and running here, and it's working quite well. And I've themed it up the way I liked it, and all the themes and icons that I like all seem to work all right. I did have a strange anomaly with the Quokka theme to start with. It didn't come up, didn't look right. But maybe after an update or something, it looks okay now. So I don't know what was going on there. But sometimes you tend to try things before updating, and that's probably not a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I always update first and then, then mess around. So, but yeah, I'm finding it pretty good. It's runs quite well. It's a nice distro anyway. They're doing a great, very good work on that. So great job. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So moving swiftly on, Big Pod, did you try it and did you like it? You're muted, my friend.
Didn't try it, didn't have time during the week and just forgot between bills, so didn't try it.
Okay. Dan, I think it's over to you, unless I take Dan Kelly, or you want to take him, Dan Simmons?
Yeah, I can go. Dan, did you get a chance to try Mate?
Absolutely. I've been using it all week and having a blast with it. Some highlights that I like about it is when you install it, you get this nice welcome screen, which you can actually go in and go through it and get to the point where you can get your software updates, your drivers, your Blu-ray and DVD drivers, player thingies, and additional screensavers and themes are a help to, and other stuff. Wallpapers are a help to get right off the bat, because it doesn't come with a lot of that stuff installed as far as wallpapers and theming. So you get some additional stuff when you go to that area to continue setting up your system. So with that said, I liked when I installed it. I liked the way they set up the install and the mate menu boots ISO screen. Power management and screensaver. I like that option when you're in the screensaver menu. To select a screensaver, you can drop down to power management and select something else to where the screen just powers off instead of using a screensaver. Something I did notice is when I was installing my apps, and I did install a huge amount of them, they did not immediately show in the menu after they were installed. It took up to 15 minutes for them to actually apply in the menu. On startup, every time I get this message called System Program Problem Message, and then you got a button to click it to send to report it. I have an issue with monitors powering off and then getting them back. After about 10 minutes, when the monitors go to sleep, if I jiggle the mouse, they both will wake up and come back on. If I hit the space bar, sometimes only one of them will come on and it'll just stay that way. And I can repeat this several times. However, they might have fixed this in the last 2 or 3 days. Of course, we have the HDMI audio overtaking all your other audio when you boot up, and you have to go into the config and set your audio back up again. If you don't like the green icons and stuff like that, Arc has a nice icon pack, and you just put it in your .icon folder in your home directory. And then they'll show right up in the icon menu in the settings. I had no screen tearing. Welcome menu's great. I love it. As Barb knows, I've always been a fan of Mate. I'll probably continue to stay on this until it breaks or something.
Yeah.
So that's my review.
Good stuff. Yeah, definitely. I would say with any of those issues, if you, especially the ones you can repeat, I would make sure to report those. That'll probably help.
Well, Popey knows about the HDMI one because it's been
Yeah.
brought up several times, and he said last week he knew about it. It's a Ubuntu thing.
Yep, I know that.
The last couple of days, I have not been able to duplicate the monitor problem when they power down, getting them to power back up. So I might have got an update somewhere that fixed that.
Dan, you were saying when you boot up, it comes. You get that like error message.
Yes.
Bill gave me a. I mean, I'd have to look it up, but he can probably post it.
Yeah.
What to do to fix it? I was getting that. It was driving me crazy. So because I said something to Bill like 2 weeks ago, and he told me what to do. It's a real simple fix.
Yeah. Every time I start it up fresh, I get that message.
I was too. It was driving me nuts, and it was on most of my machines.
You've got a report that didn't go through, likely, and so it's still sitting there, and you just have to delete that out.
Yep.
And then it won't show up again.
Yeah, Dan, I'll put a link in the chat for you.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, good report. Thanks, Dan. Chicken, how are you?
Hi.
Good to see you.
If it does help, there is also a setting in the, or not a setting, but an option in the Mate's welcome screen for extra icons and themes, which will bring in a whole bunch, including the ones you mentioned, I believe. So you don't have to go fetch it.
Chicken, we missed you.
Oh, thank you. This release of Ubuntu Mate is actually fantastic. I may have fallen in love with Kubuntu lately, but I did try it before. I actually tried it when it first released, and the whole desktop as an experience has been both smoother and faster for me. I haven't noticed issues like weird duplications in the system tray, which has been fantastic. Brisk also does not crash as much as it used to. It just kind of behaves, which is cool because I used to have problems in the Mutiny layout where it would just spaz out sometimes, and now it doesn't do that. So all in all, I think it's just a great release that has kind of taken the best parts of Mate and smoothed them out, put it on a nice silver platter, and it's a great experience. So, yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Ben, I'm not sure. You had said earlier you were not going to go, but did you want to add something?
Yes. So earlier I was saying that I had problems with certain things deleting in it, etc. Well, I found out that Nate was right. It was my SSD that was crashing and failing. So I
Can you say that part again?
What?
Just can you go back? Can you say that part one more time? What'd you say?
You were right. He was right. It was the fact that earlier my drive was in fact crashing and dying. So I got that swapped out, and I'm getting a brand new drive in on Monday. But either way, other than that, I've not had many issues, and I have to say I give this one 2 thumbs up. Great release from the Ubuntu Mate guys. Awesome.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, glad to hear you able to figure out.
Like
the
everyone
problem.
else has said, the Ubuntu Optimus applet, heck yeah, awesome. So that's a great little utility, and saved my laptop from having a lot of peril. Moving on.
Cool, yeah.
Great. Well, I'm glad you were able to figure that out. That's fantastic.
Or Nate figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
pretty much.
Either way.
Well,
collectively,
broken
it got
clock can be
fixed.
right twice a day.
That's right. And there he is. He appears just in time. Dave.
Actually, I'm running it right now because OpenSUSE Tumbleweed has given me a snarky little issue.
No.
The past week. No, it's minor, and it came with an update, and I'm sure I screwed something up, and I just haven't been able to figure out the tweak to get it back yet. So in the middle of the listening to Biddle Europe on my laptop, I'm like, oh, why not? Yanked out from the IC dock my OpenSUSE disk, threw in a blank one, installed Ubuntu Mate, and spent an hour setting it up, and I like Kaha a lot because it does everything so far that I've tried to do that Dolphin did in KDE. The only thing I've come across yet that I wish that Mate did was in Plasma, I can dictate what desktop and monitor an app will start on. And if Mate can do that, I haven't found the setting yet. But other than that, it has run everything I've thrown at it. Being Ubuntu, it actually runs some stuff that I can't. My VPN will run on Windows, Mac OS, and it'll run in Ubuntu, but I have to manually set up OpenVPN in Arch or OpenSUSE, so it makes that experience easier. So I've been enjoying it, and I will probably leave it on at least a secondary disk, if not the primary, for a while.
Wow, did Dave say he did something better than a Hotch?
I think he did.
It is because the programmer.
Just putting words in his
do
mouth.
Do you hear that backpedaling? Do you hear that?
No, I'm not saying it does it better, but the programmer set it up. Perfect VPN, Perfect Privacy VPN, has an app, a management app that runs in Ubuntu, but they don't have a flavor variant for Arch. So it's more that I just have to set it up. It runs equally well under each. It doesn't run better under Arch. It's just easier to control in Ubuntu.
Yep. Oh no, it is Miss Ubuntu Mate fangirl Barb's turn.
Yes. Yes. What do you mean? Oh no. Okay. Anyway, I think this is so far from what I've seen, and I've been using Ubuntu Mate since 1704, I think now. Besides the fact that it's green, and I get rid of the green. Green's good on plants. But I forgive Martin for
Barb.
What? I did the same thing when I'm running OpenSUSE. I get rid of the green, but I like the chameleon. So anyway, I think this actually is the best version so far. It is faster. In fact, I even think that battery life is better, which was something. I've got this one behemoth of a laptop. It's a Dell Precision. That's like the battery eater, and I'm getting actually more time doing the same things without having to run around looking for power. So I do think battery life is better. I think overall it's a lot speedier. I do only, and I didn't have the problem with having three physical drives like I did with 1904. Kind of went squarely. Actually, so did 1804 for that matter. But it handled it perfectly this time. I didn't have to worry about, I've got to go into F-tabs and edit all this stuff. So that way it's a lot better overall. I think even the software boutique runs faster because after I install Ubuntu and I run the updates, I go in and get normally whatever it is that a lot of the stuff that I want to use, I get off the software boutique because you can actually set up like a batch job. And that is probably one of the nicest things about it. You can do that basically with Synaptic also. But I find you just set it up and walk away and lots of stuff gets installed. That's even faster now.
Barb, did you upgrade or did you fresh install?
I this time I did a fresh install. I just on two different machines, on my two main machines. Three, because the one I use that I take to work. So yeah, I did fresh install this time. And that may be partly why it's better. Sometimes, I mean, I will do an upgrade. It depends on my mood, but then I later probably go back and do a fresh install anyway.
Yeah, I said earlier that I had done an upgrade on my dad's computer. There was like one or two minor issues after up. And I don't know if that was the fault of Mate or if it was the fault of Ubuntu or certain programs just like virtual magnifying.
Yeah.
I have internet access too, and the icon is just right sized as well.
One of the things that I thought was really nice that they fixed, and this was something that happened with 1904, was that if you wanted to shut down your computer and you press the power button, most of the time it wouldn't even work. And it didn't matter. It was across the board. It didn't matter which machine I was on. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do a fresh install. I thought that's going to be something that's going to bug me if it's still doing it. And so I did the fresh install, and you press the power button and the shutdown dialog box shows up perfectly every time. I only had one real weird thing, and it's on the Precision, the one that I'm using now. It has to do with when it boots up. For some reason, when it uses the .19 kernel, sometimes it's like my monitor goes into La La Land. And it doesn't matter whether have my external monitor plugged in or not. So I've been using the .18 most of the time, and that seems to work. And it didn't happen when I had the beta. It only started once they put in the 5.3.0.19 or whatever. That's the one, and I talked to Bill about it, and I sent him all the information. It's like one of those weird things. Could be my combination of hardware. But I found a workaround. But if anybody else has it, just try the previous, the .18 kernel, and that seems to fix it.
Very nice. I gotta actually work on my kernels with Popey later, but that's another whole story.
Yeah.
Peter.
Well, actually, I went 3 times in Middle Europe. Well, starting it off at least.
You did.
Nothing really to add apart from that one glitch I had in Middle Europe when my machine froze up. I reboot, fixed it, and it's been fine since. That's it.
You're muted, Zeb.
So I am. I thought I was typing, so I thought I better not clatter over the keyboards when I had to go at somebody earlier on. Yeah, I'll have to have a look at this Middle Europe earlier on, because I seem to be missing a lot of good points that were made. So yeah, anybody in the stream, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch Middle Europe as well. So Ricky, did you get a chance to try it this week?
I'm actually on it right now as we speak. I liked that the Software Boutique allows me to change the theming. That's the one thing I've been waiting for. Right now, I got the Windows lookalike theme, so now I can use Ubuntu Mate as if it was a Windows machine, which is what I'm used to. The Software Boutique works really nice. It's a bit more snappier. Other than that, the only real issue I've had so far, and I've been struggling with this issue for very much ever since I went to Linux full-time on this machine. Whenever I suspend, and this doesn't happen every time I suspend, but when I do, not too often, my power button will just stay lit and it doesn't go through the whole suspension process. And I have to end up holding my power button and then literally restarting my whole machine. I don't get why my machine does that.
Let me give you a good tip. Forget suspend. It hasn't worked, and it doesn't work really well at all on Linux with laptops. I don't know what it is. I hear so many things in the Peppermint forum about things going wrong with suspend. So I always just tell people,
why you buy a Dell. Are we talking suspend or hibernate?
Suspend.
I get both, whether it's suspend or hibernate. So many complaints. It's ridiculous.
I'd check your S3 settings in your BIOS. That's usually where those
also something that happens.
from.
Ricky, are you on a laptop?
No, I'm on my HP all-in-one.
Something that happens to me on my laptop, and I had this happen just with Ubuntu 19.10 this week, is it sets it to S2 idle as the sleep type, and there's a way to set it back to the old standard of deep. If I leave mine on S2 idle, it never actually goes to sleep. And I put it in my bag, and then I took it out an hour later, and it was flaming hot, and the fans were running, and I thought, oh, that's really not good. So anyway, yeah, it's something you have to look at.
I think what I may have to do is check the BIOS, and if the BIOS doesn't get me an answer, instead of suspend, if I need to stop using it, I'll just shut the whole thing down.
Yep.
But other than that, I mean, Mate has been really good. I mean, I just literally went from 18.04 LTS to 19.10 in one day. I mean, the LTS was good, but I wanted to give this thing a fresh system, so I stayed with Mate, but I pretty much upgraded it my way, which was taking my old installation and just wiping it, putting 19.10 on it, and within at least an hour, I had my setup all ready to go. I got my privacy hardened Firefox all ready to go that works nicely. My privacy hardened Vivaldi that works okay. Thunderbird, OBS, GUVC View, everything works good. It took me a little bit to install Zoom though, but that wasn't too much of a trouble. But yeah, other than that, every Ubuntu Mate never ceases to amaze me. Martin Wimpress is a wonderful man. Thank you for this OS.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Sleepy, welcome. And did you try it?
Thanks, Seb. Yeah, I was been running it this week as well. The thing that really strikes me the most about Ubuntu Mate, and it's just that it's such a project of passion. And I was reminded of that fact when I heard Martin Wimpress recently on the Linux Lads podcast again, and how he spoke about how he made the distro originally for his wife. And I thought that's just such an awesome story. I'd heard it around the traps for a little while, but I wasn't quite sure. And when I heard it from him himself, I thought that was just great. And it was just that issue there was just reaffirmed recently when I first read his blog post about this release and how detailed it was, how much effort was put in, how much passion was put into just fixing all the little things. And I think that just makes such a great story for the distro. Having said all that, I still found a couple of little issues. When I was switching panel layouts, I was still getting some random crashes, which has happened to me in the past when I've tried Mate. In particular, it was the indicators applet that seemed to crash a bit, and the brisk menu that still seemed to crash a bit. But that may be up to me because with all the options that there are of different layouts, and being very indecisive, I was changing them around a lot. And I guess if you do all that, then it's going to crash. But if you stick to one, I think it would be fine. The other thing I found was with the Telegram icon in the system tray. When I tried to reduce the panel size, it didn't scale. It would just be cut off in the top and bottom. I just like having those few extra pixels for my screen real estate. And yeah, just to go back to the point of how this release, they've done so many little things right. And I'm not quite sure if this is new, but something that I did notice when I installed, or when I was going through the installer and it asked me for my to log into my Wi-Fi and connect there, those settings actually carried through to my final installed system, so I didn't have to actually re-input those details. And I thought, I don't recall seeing that in a lot of other distros, and I think that's such a nice touch to not have to then reconnect to your Wi-Fi. Overall, it's a fantastic distro. I'd run it, I think, if I wasn't on Arch.
Yeah,
hey, Vince, I have a quick question for you. So the panel, I think you mentioned before you were running it at 30 and it was cutting off?
No, even smaller than that. I was running it on 22 pixels.
Right,
30 seems to, 32 seems to work okay. But all the other indicator icons work fine. And I went back to Martin's blog post, and he did say in the post that they've done a lot of fixes. That they've added a lot of scalable images, I think.
Yes, they did. They have.
Yeah. The particular the Telegram version was a snap version, so I'm wondering if that just needs to be added as an icon.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's good feedback. I will say, so you mentioned that there's a lot of settings. I think I'll agree with that, but I think they're well laid out, so I think people can get to them easily. I'd have to say that, it for the GTK type desktops, it's probably got some of the most, configuration that's available to you, but it is really well laid out. So for me, it works, I think.
And I think that's one of the defining features of Mate, that you can actually have those options.
Yep. Agreed. Cool. Kevin, did you get a chance to try Mate this week?
I did not.
Okay. Fair enough. Paul, you get a chance to try Mate?
Yeah, I did get a chance to try it on my new little test laptop here, and I gotta agree with Barb. It's a really nice setup. Yeah, I've had no issues even with sleep on this one. It'll actually sleep and wake up, which surprised me. So yeah, it's a great distro, and I love it.
Awesome. Good feedback.
Bash, did you want to get something in here that you didn't already get in?
Not that I can think of. No, not really.
All right, Aris.
The only things that I didn't talk about in the Europe edition is I did get screen tearing. I have an old laptop that has NVIDIA. I have the proprietary drivers on, and I still got a screen tearing. But I was able to solve it as I usually do with pretty much every other desktop with my script that enables forcing the pipeline. And then the screen tearing went away. I also wanted to say that the welcome screen has that ability to change the desktop layout. If you double click anything or like more than once, it really like messes up the desktop. I guess that's really user error, but I don't know if you could put like instead like select one of them and then press OK, so you don't want to like double click it, because I have noticed if you click it more than once, it really messes up the desktop afterwards.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on when it's switching layouts. So I don't know, Bill, you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, if you're messing around, so I'm sorry, I just was playing around with the changing the layout like you guys were just talking about. So just to see if I was having that issue. And if you do a bunch of them at once, I think you wind up creating a race condition and it doesn't have a chance to catch up. So if you just do it, I hate to say it, if you just do it a little bit more slowly and don't click through 100 things at once, which is hard to, I guess, write down, don't do this, but I'll add that to my note, Eris, about clicking and then hitting OK and maybe having a note pop up.
It's a bad habit from double clicking.
That's why you shouldn't double click. That's why you should single click.
I stopped double clicking, but I still do it.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
I saw it coming.
But Rocco, what was that thing that you taught me ages ago, that anybody in an NVIDIA card should really go into the settings and turn that one setting off in OpenGL?
It was if you uncheck the allow flipping setting, it usually took care of any screen tearing that I had with the NVIDIA driver. So, and that's under the OpenGL settings.
Nice. I've got one question for Bill. I posted a Twitter post because I was quite excited that by still putting the PPA in for the NVIDIA drivers, I was able to get 440 installed instead of the 435. And Martin came back and said, yeah, but then you have problems with, I can't remember what it is now, the startup thing that stops.
Secure boot.
Just the secure boot, that's the one, yeah. Well, I didn't have that, but he also mentioned, well, don't worry, it's going to be coming in soon anyway. Well, that was about a week and a half ago. Any idea when 440 is due to land?
I have no idea. That's way above my pay grade.
Ah, right, okay.
Zeb, I'm also on 440, and I haven't had any issues either.
Exactly. I mean, I just dumped the PPA on, and it came straight in. But no, my systems are all secure boot because Pep's been secure bootable since September 2015 when I first tested it for Mark when it was causing issues. And no, I've never turned secure boot off. Funny enough, I've never turned secure boot off full stop. So I think most distros I've got that problem sorted now.
Most distros will either just disable it automatically, or some, like OpenSUSE has probably one of the best secure boot implementations I've ever seen. But
you just made Nate very happy.
Yeah, I know. It's honestly really good. But
this has been a great week.
Colin, you wanted to get something else in?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if anybody knew that in the welcome screen, I really like the desktop layout thing they've got going on there. Is that eventually going to be part of the actual panel tweak in the Mate tweak? I just wondered if anybody knew that, because that would be quite awesome to have that as part of the system in the tweak tool itself. Does anyone know? Is that what their plan is?
Can you go over that one more time, please?
In the welcome screen, you have the desktop layout. So it gives you some pictures of all the different desktop layouts, which is quite awesome. I'm just wondering if that's some sort of setup to eventually put that in the Mate tweak.
I'm not sure that was plan set up, but I am going to make a note to ask that question.
Yeah, I think one of us said that earlier. I think it was Aris, maybe, or somebody said about it earlier, about it being a nice implementation of actually being able to see the layout before you click on it, instead of just like a drop-down menu.
Yeah, and I think it would probably be better in the Mate tweak rather than in the welcome screen, because maybe when you're in the welcome screen, you probably haven't done your updates, or maybe you have, or you might go straight to that. If you haven't updated, it could cause problems with the layout transitioning as well, possibly. But yeah, that would be quite awesome to have that in the tweak tool. I think that's really good.
Cool. Sorry, Dan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just have an honorable mention here about something I noticed. When you have your keyboard and you have your volume up and down and mute buttons, they have actually eliminated one of the boxes on dual screen monitors. So you only get the box that shows the volume from your keyboard functions. On the monitor, you have your mouse cursor on, which is absolutely wonderful, instead of just all over both or three screens.
Cool.
And that's all I really wanted to say.
Anybody else got anything they want to add to their take on Ubuntu Mate? Chicken.
So, one more thing about the NVIDIA thing. I think part of the thread was that the stuff that's in that is kind of testing for what will eventually be in there. So it's kind of like running a testing branch for the next stable, which is usually not a huge deal, but I just think that because it's such a new release, that's probably why they don't recommend it as well. Just because it's only just been released and you're running the testing branch for it.
Colin?
You're muted, Colin. Look of disgust on his face.
See what happens when you do the right thing? I was just going to say the discussion that Zeb and Vince had in Telegram, and I did put that on my video, it was to do with the clock. Now, the applet indicator complete has a clock that has integration with the evolution calendar, whereas the normal clock doesn't. Is there another option to put a separate normal clock with that integration, or it's only within the complete indicator applet?
Bill?
So the clock is
sorry, yep.
So there is let me get to this thing correctly. There is I don't know how you guys can keep up with chats and YouTube.
It's impossible. I gave up.
Welcome to our world.
Who said we kept up?
We just make it up.
Because what I was trying to do this on when I was trying to do Eris's thing, and if you click on 100 things at once, it does cause a couple issues.
Yes, it does.
So there is a clock applet. If you go into the panel, you can add a separate clock applet that's not part of the indicator.
Yes.
So you can
That's
do
right.
that.
Yeah.
So you can add a separate applet. That's
Yeah, I
not
suppose you could have. I suppose you could have the two clocks if you really wanted them both, isn't it? You could probably do that. Yeah.
Because what was you saying about the one that was in the panel, Colin? It's integrated into.
Yeah, it's integrated for the evolution calendar, and it's got the options there of adding events and all that sort of thing, whereas the normal clock doesn't have that. So I suppose if you use the complete indicator applet, you could probably just add the normal clock with that, I suppose. You'd probably have two clocks on there then, I would say.
All right, so how do you add something? Because if I click, I've just added a clock, and if I click on it, I get the calendar come up. If I click the clock that's in the panel that's already there, I get the same calendar come up. So I don't know what.
I think what he's saying is if you want it to say, like mine says Saturday, November 9th, and then the time, that type of thing.
Yes,
Is
that's
that what
correct.
Because that's what I prefer.
Yeah, that's the
than just
normal
time.
clock. Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
you
then
have to
there's
add
another
that one
clock.
separately.
Yeah, because they've got many indicator applets within add to panel. So one of them has the integrated clock for the evolution calendar.
Yeah.
I noticed. Yeah, that's all right. I'm probably just overthinking things.
So I think, Colin, you're saying in the normal clock, the standalone clock, you can't click it and like add a task in evolution mail calendar like you can the all-in-one.
That's correct. Yes. Yep. So you would have to have probably two clocks with the complete indicator applet if you wanted that as well. If you wanted the normal clock and because you don't have configurations in the clock that's in the indicator applet complete. There's no clock configurations for that, which was what the issue was.
Well, Max in the YouTube chat had a question about tablet support on maybe a touch screen. Did anybody try it on a touch screen, Ubuntu Mate? Chicken?
I did. And so there's kind of two layers to this. Every distro desktop always has kind of a different way of integrating how touch works. And in Mate, it kind of works exactly as you would expect it to work. Anything you touch with your finger will act as a normal click. Things you touch and move will just move as if you've clicked and dragged them. And then there's the second layer is when it comes to integrating that behavior into other applications, such as drawing applications. And I did notice that those required manual setup to recognize, like, instead of having to like double click in the drawing application and then drag it around, you have to kind of tell the drawing application to sort of predict that. So when it does receive any sort of initial gesture, then it registers as painting, which was doable in Krita, but I had a hard time finding it in GIMP. So by default, like with media applications for like image editing or like Blender, stuff like that, it doesn't quite understand how to transfer touch input to that as a tablet would, but the desktop itself works perfectly.
Well, I think he said, if I'm just trying to remember back, but I think he said he wanted to install it on a media center. Would that application work?
Yeah, that should work perfectly.
Okay. All right. Anything anybody wants to get in else? That's a big negative. Okay. So that is our take on Ubuntu Mate. Bill, did you want to say anything about Mate?
The only thing I want to say is the people were talking about the software boutique. So as we're speaking, Jeff Labonte, who's part of the Ubuntu Mate team, is actually making commits while we're doing this. So,
so there's a lot of hard work going into this.
Yes, there is.
Yep. And that's the one thing I think everybody realizes it, that there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, but when you actually see it, it's an amazing thing, because it's almost like we say it by reaction, that there's a lot of hard work that went into this. But man, when you see all of the actual hours of effort that people put in, it's very humbling that we get to use this stuff for free. Dan Kelly, go ahead.
When I hear other people say they put Mate on a different distro and they really don't like it, I usually tell them, get the Ubuntu version and take a look at that one, because they really are kind of different. The Ubuntu one goes way out with all the extras, where if you just get one Mate desktop for Debian, it's pretty plain. You don't get all the goodies, bells, whistles, and all that. And that's all I had to say about that thing.
Well, I got a question for you guys. Normally, we talk about what distros we would give to new users, and like, for me, Ubuntu Mate has always been on that list of I'm able to give it to a new user. And Eric, actually, me and him talked about it on the Europe, where I would be comfortable giving this to somebody new and installing it and letting them go. In trying this, do you guys has this been a help in your opinion, in the eyes of, would you give this to a new user?
This was my second distro after Mint.
I think the fact that you can tailor it to what the user would be comfortable with, depending on where they're coming from, with the theme switcher and the layout switching and all of that, I think that does lend towards giving it to a newer user for sure.
Mhm.
Somebody coming into Linux anyway.
I wouldn't have any problem giving this to a new user, because when it's as stable or even more stable than probably what they're coming from, and you, as Dan said, you can tailor it. So I think that I would have no problems with it.
Yeah, so the tailoring thing, I think, is something that a new user wouldn't necessarily do, because I could see a new user starting this up, shutting down the shutdown screen because I just think it's a pop-up. And then what they've got for me is they've got a perfectly usable system that will work. As they dig deeper, they might go, oh, welcome screen. Oh, that's that thing I shut. What's all this about? And then they might get involved. But their initial instinct will be, it's up. What's that? Don't want that. And then they could just get on and use it. So I think that's going to be good.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning for them to tailor it. I meant like if you handed it to them after you switch their, if they're coming from Windows and you switch it to something that's more comfortable for them, or even Mac OS or whatever. I think if you did that for them, that first step, I think it would go a long way.
Gotcha.
I think the curated app lists is another big thing too, right, for new users, because I know a lot of people that just switch to Linux from whatever other platform, they're like, okay, what software do I use now? And I think having a guided approach toward that is pretty helpful.
Yeah, well, you can use there's other new user friendly software centers. Even GNOME people could use, but the issue comes when you search for software, or maybe you don't know what software to use for a certain category, where the software boutique allows you to see that up front and in categories and separated, so that, hey, I just click this, install here, click this, install here, and I can do it all in one shot. It's tailored to be friendly to anybody that's going to use it.
Yeah, I guess what I was saying is the fact that somebody took some time to put together a set of apps that work well on the system. They're not going to put poorly supported apps in there. So, having a listing of things that are going to work right off the bat is pretty helpful.
Yep.
To me, Ubuntu Mate was always second place to Mint, just because of the stability wasn't there. But now with this release, I think this will be my number one recommendation for a new user, especially with the boutique. It's always been like they said, it's very limited options there. You know, you're not overwhelmed with everything. Everything's laid out nicely, and then the welcome screen shows you everything, like how to update your computer, how to install drivers. Everything's very simple, and the layouts, in case you want to switch out the layout for like a Windows or like a Mac kind of layout, very easily done.
I can agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I mean, if I was handing this to a new user, what I would do for them first of all, I would set the Mate environment itself to where that new user is coming from. Say they're coming from a Mac, I'll put the Mac theme on it. Say they're coming from Windows, I'll put the Windows theme. I want to give them an environment that they're comfortable using and a workflow that they're comfortable using. This way, when they do fully immerse themselves, they'll know how to update the system, how to install the packages for the software boutique, and customize the system to their exact workflow. Because I mean, let's face it, a Windows user's workflow and a Mac user's workflow are two completely different workflows.
Yep. Eric, did you want to get anything in about Mate?
Well, I think I kind of gave my opinion on Europe Edition, and also just on the curated software. I think so. As they claim, the idea of paper cuts and cleaning up little things, and it does show when you use the system and you use the menus and the applications that are installed and the settings. It all just has that cohesive feel. There are still some limitations I think we've all kind of picked up on with theming and some other things that I know that they're looking at, but ultimately, and I'm sure Barb can attest that over time, you just kind of see the evolution and the refinement of the desktop as you go. And this is just yet another sort of extension of that. And then underneath of that, the base of Ubuntu and some of the improvements there. So, yeah, I mean, Mate is not really my favorite desktop experience, but in terms of what they've done with putting all the packages together and giving this, like we've all said, this is a great option for someone, set and forget it, that kind of thing. So that's high praise in my book, right? I mean, all of us are just sort of saying that this is well thought out, well put together, well executed, and very few very small complaints, right? Very small things to pick up on. So that to me is a mark of some good work.
Well, Bill, I would ask you to take back, and I'm sure we said it earlier to you and Alan, but take back our thanks and appreciation for everybody for all the hard work, including yourself, Bill.
Thank you. Just let me say a couple things, if you don't mind, before we go.
Do it.
I'd like anybody that's really using this or wants to use it to go check out the release notes. And there's a bunch of new key bindings. No one mentioned those today. And a lot of those key bindings are very similar to some of the stuff you might find in a Windows 10 key binding. We had a lot of people that wanted to have Windows come here, here, and there. So there's a whole list of those key bindings, and I think that's something that are kind of a very nice feature that's in 1910. I appreciate everybody giving us some of the feedback. There are some... It's one of the weird things that I've found out from working on what I've done is there are things that are done here, and then there are things that are done in different applications. There's things that are done in Debian. There are things that are done in Ubuntu proper that all flow in, and one little thing changed here can have a cascading effect. And you don't really always see it when you're outside. And it's sort of when you get a little bit of the onion peeled away, you get to see that it's an incredible amount of work by a lot of different people, not just on the team that I'm involved with, but overall throughout the kernel developers, application developers. And I appreciate everybody's input, and I appreciate what everybody in the entire community does for us.
Awesome. Very nice. that's our take on Ubuntu Mate. That's all we got. But we have to pick a new distro. One of the Ubuntus that are left. We have what? Ubuntu, Kubuntu,
Chillin'.
Budgie,
Studio.
we do. Studio. Yeah. So I'm open for suggestions.
Have we done Zubuntu yet?
I vote Kubuntu.
Well, Ben, that's one vote for Kubuntu. Ben, we did do Ubuntu just like right before, like 2 weeks before we started the Ubuntus.
Okay.
Just as a random thing.
I'll vouch for Kubuntu as well.
When did we do Studio last, Rocco? Because I remember they're always kind of trailing a little bit, so I'm just curious if it should get another look anytime soon too.
I would have to look.
Let me look.
I'm not sure exactly when. I thought it was.
It was May
recently.
18th.
Oh, okay. Somehow I didn't think that we did do it. We discussed it.
Yeah,
No, we did it on
I
May.
thought we did it.
18th,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep, May 18th.
Well, why don't we try Kubuntu then, if everybody's okay with that?
Yep, Kubuntu
That
sounds
just means
good.
Chicken doesn't have
Chicken
to
is excited about it. Yeah.
So now I get to
I
spend
just
the
got to change
week.
it to a green theme.
It's KDE. You can change it any way you want.
Been a little while since I tackled Plasma.
I don't know. I might have to put Kubuntu on the other drive in this machine, see how it's working. You know what I'm saying?
And I know Chicken's been struggling, but you've got a week to get your buttons in the middle of the window.
Hey, I'm sure there is a KWin script somewhere that'll just stick them right there.
Because it was a bit like single click and double click, Rocco. Should you have your buttons, Windows buttons on the left or the right?
Of course
And I
you should
think
have them on the left. Of course you
The
should.
left, hands down.
Dorian.slash come back with, well, I'm fed up with all these arguments. I put mine in the middle, and he showed a screenshot. He's got his buttons right in the middle of every window. And we thought, yeah, let's try that on. And I couldn't do it. Chicken couldn't do it.
No. I mean, it was a masterfully done screenshot. Like, that was perfect timing and everything. I was like, wait, sorry, what?
Yeah, I'm wondering, did we get trolled there? That was just a gimp.
Called GIMP. Yep.
Oh, that was Photoshop. He said he was a Photoshop.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Yep.
Ah, right.
There's got to be a
I'll take
way
that
in
challenge
Plasma,
back,
though.
then.
There's got to be a way in Plasma, though. So.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I don't actually have my window buttons
Flexible.
on the right is because in KDE, certain applications don't respect the changes. And so when I have them there, some applications, it's like, yay, they're in the right place. And then other applications, they're not. So I just give up.
Hey, Steve, welcome. You were off the screen, so I missed you being there. Did you want to get anything in on Mate?
Oh, that's okay. I knew it's a crowded house tonight. 26 is never around.
Yep.
I installed it, and after the last few with the Calmaris installer, it was nice to have something installed really quick in that. It's still a great looking distro. I mean, I think it's really nice. I think the only issue that I had was the brisk menu was crashing. And the second time that I booted up on it, and it seems to everybody's saying that it's a little bit quicker. Actually, maybe it's the laptop that I have it on. It seems a little bit slower, especially boot up. Boot up's like over a minute, and one of the man PDB services is like taking up like 58 seconds of time to boot up. So that's all I kind of have on it, but it's still, I mean, a beautiful distribution.
Yep. Well, there's our pick. We're going to try Kubuntu this week. So there you go. Does anybody think we'll get a snap of the Edge browser for Linux?
I'm not
hoping
really.
so. I've been edging my seat on that one.
I'm not really sure about the Edge browser. I've heard it's coming to Linux. I'm not sure when it's coming.
Hopefully sometime in 2022.
Has anyone ever actually
probably
used?
not long after the first of the year.
Has anyone actually used the Edge browser even on Windows?
I think
Yes.
twice.
I used it briefly. It's actually a
used it
pretty
a little
pleasant
bit.
browser to use.
It's
My wife goes back
Windows version of Chrome, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Well,
No,
so
it is,
right
yeah,
now,
but
currently, it's not using the Chromium backend. So the big change here is that it's going to switch from the old Edge rendering stuff, which I think is called Blink, or maybe it's something else.
Yeah, but
it'll
most
be
people
switching
would have
to
jumped
Chromium.
onto the beta chicken, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
they
the
put-
Canary builds are using Chromium.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think most people using Windows and Edge right now are on the beta builds.
No.
Yeah, but we're not
So-
most people, are we?
Yeah, that's true. I think that the benefit here is that you'll have better access and integration to Microsoft services as well as features. So the OneNote integrations, the Cortana integrations, so you could get lyrics to songs you're listening to or look through images. Like those are kind of the key features that are really being shown off here rather than the technology of the browser itself. So if you use Chrome already, you're probably going to be familiar with how pages render and stuff like that.
Well, this will be the first time with this Ubuntu thing. This will be the first time I've been using KDE in a while. And usually I use, I should say I used to use an Android device, which can connect with KDE Connect. But right now I have an iPhone, so that whole aspect of having KDE Connect, which was something that I used consistently and all the time, is not even a option now, which is kind of sad.
The good thing is you can uninstall it without tearing out any of the rest of the desktop. So,
go ahead.
I was just going to say another thing to keep in mind is that the PPA, backports PPA, will give you the latest version of Plasma. So if you run just Ubuntu 19.10, I believe you're going to have 5.16 something. And if you do the PPA, which is well maintained, and I've never had a problem running the PPA, that's going to give you 5.17.1, I believe. And
Yeah.
so you don't have to, but
I've already done it.
I always use the PPA just to have, because then you're going to have pretty much always the latest version of Plasma as well.
Yeah, Rick Mills does a fantastic job keeping that PPA up to date.
Yes, he does.
The PPA is 17.2. I'm on it right now.
Oh, is it 0.2 now? Okay.
Maybe Rick Mills will come on here next week and we can talk to him. Come on.
Yeah. I owe Rick Mills several beers if I ever meet him.
Well, I can't. I actually am looking forward to it. So there you go.
I've been using it for a while now. Not that I'm
You
like,
put out a
bragging or
video
anything.
on it, dude.
I've been on it since release week.
Nice. Yes. No, I think
Yeah.
they did a fantastic job with it. Normally, I am tempted to go with the backports because I always love that fresh new stuff. But I feel like it is in a position where it's good enough that you don't need to. But Plasma's always got new stuff coming down the pipe that's really cool. So you probably don't want to miss out on that either.
All right, PZ, it's time. We've avoided it for a few weeks now, or I shouldn't say avoided it. We've forgotten about it for 2 weeks now. So you recently went to OggCamp.
Yeah, way back in the middle of October now.
Don't. It was recent.
Yeah, it was recent. Well, the only thing I can say about it is, what Self was like, and I think there's a couple of people in the audience who may have been to Self and in the stream as well. It's like a mini version of the Southeast Linux Fest. They had some great talks. They had a really interesting concept on the other talks that I'll get into in a minute. But for me, the best thing about OggCamp was the conversations that take place when people are walking from speech to speech, conference to conference, presentation to presentation, and or you stop by the coffee shop, sit down for a cup of coffee, or you go to the exhibition halls, and you get a little group of people who will suddenly start talking about a particular subject. Maybe it's of interest to somebody, or you suddenly realize, oh, I know them, that's Fred from the so-and-so group, and you go over there and chat. And there's all these little huddles of people talking about different things. And whether you walk up and interrupt or whether you just walk up and sit down, it's such a friendly atmosphere. And you can learn so much from those little huddles of people. It's great. And meeting the people was fantastic. But the bit that I thought was really good, you go to and I've only been to the one, you go to Self and you get this big booklet and it tells you everything that's going to be happening from presentation wise. And you go, well, they're all nice, but there's not anything in particular that I fancy. Well, what you can do in OggCamp is they have a whiteboard up in the main conference hall, and you can go there and you can put a suggestion up for a talk, or somebody who hasn't been accepted for the main conference hall can say, I can do a 20-minute talk on this, or I can do a 20-minute talk on that. And people can come along, and you actually then get the popular vote for the two smaller halls they had. And then there was an even better one, which was like a 5-minute chat. So somebody's got something they want to say, and voila, it's done in 5 minutes, and then you move on to the next one. The problem was those 5 minutes normally turned into 10 because you then had lots of answers. So it was that not knowing what was going to come next, but the fact that you could go and vote for it. For me, I really like that concept, and I wish that Self would consider something like that. And I think Michael said he'd experienced it one time before. So you can vote for what you want to see rather than voting for something that's, well, it's a bit more interesting than that, but it's not really my subject type thing. And I thought that was really, really good. And of course, it was great meeting everybody that I've been talking to over the years. So yeah, really, really good. If anybody's in the UK when it's on, I would say definitely go. And I guess the two highlights for me were the Friday night drink up before it started, the Saturday night drink up while it was going on, and then the Sunday night drink up because we finished. And those went through till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
On my audio.
Every night. It was madness.
Very
It
nice.
was great. It was really, really good. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
You
So-
mean they actually have talks? Considering all the podcasts I listen to, you only ever hear about the drinking times.
Yeah, that's usually what you do hear about. So, give me your favorite thing about it, Zeb.
The favourite thing about OggCamp.
Leaving the drinking out.
Yeah, no. And it's something that I forgot to mention. So thanks for asking me one final question. They had one room on the first day devoted to the children. And they had a room, and there was maybe, 10 or 12 youngsters in there. And I'm talking about, either young teenagers or younger. And they were playing with Raspberry Pis. They were playing with boards where they could type their name in and get their name to appear. There was another section at the other end where they had loads of cardboard, loads of wheels, some motors and another board, and they were able to build little remote control go-karts. And it was interesting to see that the youngest kids just wanted to get this go-kart together and for it to move. And you could see the progression. As they got older, some of the older kids built it, got it all great, and then they spent 10 or 15 minutes doing cable management, because otherwise there was these big, long bits of, and it was all these little crocodile clip connections. So you're not soldering, you're not spending lots and lots of time. And there was one marvelous young lady there. I guess she was only about 12, and she said that she'd already had 10 Raspberry Pis. One of them was connected up to a little webcam that poked out the top of her door so that she could see her parents coming down the corridor, so she could quickly turn off maybe what. But it was just the atmosphere in that whole room, to see the younger generation enjoying all that technology. I remember growing up when we were getting excited by Lego blocks. these guys and girls are building their own computers, and that was fantastic to see. It really was.
Yep. Yep. It's definitely exciting to see like that. Like if you see kids or you even grown-ups really, if you see that there's like that fire, that spark in their eye, that passion for doing this, it's absolutely awesome. Yep.
And I can imagine, and I know we've talked about him before, but let's not forget that we've got Ferran OS, the developer, who's still only 17. And I think some of these kids could be coming up in that vein. Certainly that young girl, she was just into everything technology-wise. And she was now past the Raspberry Pis and the building of the go-karts. She was actually on a little laptop programming some stuff. It was just fantastic to see.
All right. You guys got anything before we move on?
I have a question.
Do it.
So recently there is some hubbubaloo, let's say, because Elementary made a change to their software center in adding flatpak support. And now they have a warning telling you that a particular application may not be is an unsupported application. And there was a lot of turmoil about this, which I think was interesting to see from the community. And I would like to just find out if anybody saw that, what they thought about it, what they think about having a repo that they don't control and informing the user that they don't actually have control of the updates that are going to be coming.
Okay, I'll reverse that by saying, is that any different to a PPA?
Oh no, I have no problem with what they did. So
it is absolutely no different to a PPA. It's absolutely no different to what goes in the AUR. I think it was just the typical trolls who wanted to have a pop about something because they don't like the way Daniel Foray runs his Elementary. And a lot of what he's trying to say there is, yes, we're going to let this stuff in, but just be careful. It's not been vetted 100% by us, Elementary.
I think that... go ahead, Chicken. Go ahead.
Oh, I've essentially dismissed most of what people have been saying about this, not because their concerns are invalid, but it stems from not understanding the concept of how software is delivered through the platform.
Yeah, I think what they're saying is it's not apps that they support. It's not going to look cohesive across the board in their platform, and also I think it's not something that supports the developers as well. So I think put all that together, that's probably why they're doing that. And
well, I think it was a little more than that, Colin, because I think that the flatpaks could get updated. And just like a PPA, if the PPA is updated, you're going to get that update. And they have and Elementary has no control over that update once you add that flatpak in there. Right. And I think that's what they were trying to get across. But I mean, again, Elementary is one of those distros that goes against the grain sometimes. And if you look back at the history of Elementary, they have gone against the grain in quite a few things in the way they decided to move forward. And every single time, people have been upset about the changes that they've made or had questions about it. And if you look back on a whole, in my opinion, they have been right in every decision that they have made.
They have been the innovators.
Yep. Regardless of whether it was, adding the little button for adding a donation or just having paid software in the App Center. Look, they're trying to make flatpaks easier to install. So they give you this little, and if I'm not mistaken, Chicken, it's not, you can't search for software for flatpaks in the software center, correct?
Not at the moment. I don't know if when it is fully through, if you have a flatpak repository enabled. it might be able to search through that, but you still have to manually enable another repository.
If you know, if you know the name of the software that you want, you can do flatpak search in that name, and it'll see if it's out there.
I was under the impression that you couldn't search in the software center right now for a Flatpak, but you could take a FlatHub app and use that utility that they created to install a Flatpak application, kind of like the EDT application for Deb's files. It's just a little application that allows you to, a GUI that allows you to install a Flatpak.
Yeah, at the moment, it's much more like that.
Yeah.
I'd be curious as to why this is an issue at all, considering over the last couple of weeks, we've come to the conclusion that nobody ever updates anyway.
This is an issue right now, Dave, because people don't like change. Go ahead, Vash.
So I came across this in an article, and it was suggesting that you would actually be able to see those Flatpaks in the store, but it would appear after their curated content. But I have not verified that.
But to me,
that will be the effect. It's just not currently.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is a case of them trying to allow you as a user to add software that's not native to the system itself, and yet some people still find fault in the way it's implemented. You know, I mean, like, again, it's a case where they're deciding, hey, this is the direction we want to go in, and I think we should be. I mean, if you're an elementary user, I think it'd be awesome to have the ability to install Flatpak. So I would be happy about this decision. But it seems like there are people that, you know, sometimes no matter what you do, they're not happy.
So I wanted to read what it says. It says, like, Banshee is not curated by elementary and has not been reviewed by security, privacy, or system integration. It may not receive bug fixes or feature updates. It may not access or it may access or change system or personal files without permission. That's what the pop-up says.
Is that inaccurate?
No, I think that's.
I think I'm not sure if this applies to every app that's in Flatpak, because I think there are some official Flatpak apps from the developers. Just like Snap has like Spotify is maintained by Spotify.
But they're not particularly restricted by elementary themselves. Their confinements are set by someone else.
Yeah, but that would be an official app. That's why it's different from the Arch user repository, because
it's an official app to that developer. It's not an official app to elementary. Elementary has no control over how it defines its space.
Like Spotify, for example.
Yeah. So like they are official, just not elementary official. They can do whatever they want based on the terms set by that developer.
And I think that warning actually is a good thing to let you know, especially if people are going to be using the system that may not be familiar with Linux. You know, they're going to see a warning that says, you know, just be careful. And I don't see a problem in that. I don't know about anybody else.
I thought it was a very interesting way to go. We don't curate this app, so we don't know what it does. And at a certain point, like, they can only do so much and be responsible for so much. And if you put some crazy stuff on your system, I'm not saying anything that's crazy, but at a certain point, what is their responsibility if you put stuff outside? And I understand that they have a very narrow focus on how they want a desktop, but I really didn't understand the hatred that they got from this. It seemed to be really crazy.
Well, Bill, look, all these years that we have been able to add PPAs to our systems, I have heard many people over the years state how, and you'll see websites and everything else, people will recommend not installing a PPA because you never know what could happen, because that could change. Somebody could update the files, whatever. It's not as secure as something in the repos. And that's basically what elementary is saying in this warning for Flatpaks. And somehow the same people, or some of the same people that have stated that it's not okay to just install a PPA, because it's not as safe as a repo program, are some of the same voices that are saying, well, this is a warning that maybe shouldn't be there. It's the same scenario. You're adding software that's not curated by the developers of the distro itself, so they're giving you a warning.
Part of the critical nature of this as well is not blindly accepting responsibility for software out of your control. As was mentioned, there's only so much they can do. And I feel like a lot of projects will sometimes ride on the fact that they do have some sort of secure model. They do have a fairly secure distro, but that doesn't mean that the software you decide to put on there is within those bounds.
Yep. Anybody else? Eric, you're not saying nothing, dude. I mean, you're just not even going there. Wow.
Nope. Mama told me you don't have something nice to say, don't say it.
Well, do you have a dissenting opinion?
I have many dissenting opinions. I'm not going to share them.
Okay.
I love dissent. Let scorched earth. Let it burn.
Yeah. Nope. I'm
I prefer
sorry,
dissent
because I respect a lot of what they've done, but I don't agree with anything that anyone has just said in the last 10 minutes. So,
well, tell us why.
They're allowing me to install flatpaks?
Yes.
Is that the stance we're taking now? They're allowing me, my computer, to install flatpaks?
Well, they could never stop you in the first place, because anybody could go away. You could have just walked away and installed
that's the
Flatpak.
term that I heard used.
But isn't that one of the
maybe allowing wasn't the right word, because I don't always choose the right words, Eric. Maybe enabling,
making it easier.
Yeah, enabling you to install Flatpaks would be a better choice of words. But
it wasn't one of the concerns raised about Flatpaks that, what if somebody decides they want to shut down your system? They can just do it through one of those. I mean, you can hear all kinds of crazy arguments, but I know that was one of the big ones too. It was every week.
Find me one example of that happening.
I mean, even
someone anywhere, please.
Exactly.
But they're saying you had it's not Flatpaks, but you had that snap that had the malware in, so it could happen.
Right.
The same can be said of like virtually any repository you add to your machine, though.
Of course.
If you're running software on your machine, you got to trust the people that developed it. That's the bottom line.
The snap that had not really malware though. It was a minor, and it was taken care of immediately by the Ubuntu team, the Snap team. So I mean, they have that team is. As soon as they found out about it.
Yeah, as soon as they found out about it, it took about a week to shut it down and put a clean one back up. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think that's just wording that's getting your goat there, Eric. Not the concept behind what Elementary have implemented. They've just made it easier for people to see and understand and use what Flatpaks are. I don't think in any Elementary post that you use, they have said, we are now allowing you, which is what I think is getting your goat up. It's my system.
It's the way I said it, Zeb.
Yeah, it's the way we said it. And I don't think Elementary, Chicken can correct me if I'm right or wrong, Elementary have never said we are now allowing you. We are just facilitating the ease of which Flatpaks can be installed.
Yeah, and the critical point here as well is that they've never explicitly stopped you from doing these things. The thing is that it's always just not been straightforward to do. And now there's an easy way to do it.
Which is, I think, a good thing, right?
Sure.
Didn't they make it very difficult to add a PPA before? I don't know if that's still a thing.
They didn't make it difficult. No. You had to
because the
change a
default
line.
Ubuntu, you can easily add a PPA, but they specifically took out that package, so you have to add it before you add a PPA.
Well, yeah, there was no need for that package, so it wasn't in there.
Well, they saw no need in the way they wanted to do their design. And I've got no problem with that at all, because if Daniel can get what he wants to happen, anybody who wants to put something in the App Store, you have to comply with our design ethos. That way, no matter what you put in, it always looks gorgeous. And I've got no problem with that at all. If you want to circumvent that, then you've got to go through a little bit of work to do it. So,
and it's a well-documented fix that requires no more knowledge of apt than apt installing in the first place. So
Mhm.
if you know how to add a PPA, you're fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what
If
I
you're
find
adding a
fascinating
PPA
about
anyway.
this, though? I think this is an important point that I want to get out. Maybe you don't think so, but it's funny how many people you'll talk to that are on Windows 10 don't like the data mining and the things that they're doing, but they'll say, but I'm not going to worry about it. And yet it shows the difference in the ecosystem of Linux and how you use it and the people are using it and the difference in how we look at a system and how they care, sometimes to the extreme where it's really not necessarily justified or the best way to go. But it's the point that, the system is used, I think, in a more personal level because you are concerned about what is going on with it and how it's being treated and the components that go with it and everything else. Compared again to Windows, people say, "I don't care. What am I going to do about it?" So I think that's an important point between the two in and of itself.
Well, look. Well, let me just say this for Eric, for you, and for anybody else out there. I don't really care if you guys disagree with me. It's okay to bring it up. I mean, like that's perfectly okay. That's what we're here to talk about. But I still go back to the way that they have done the distro that they have chosen to develop. They have had a vision for it from the very beginning. Took a lot of heat all the way through. Haven't changed, and they've come along to be one of the desktops that you look at Linux based that is just, it's a beautiful example of what Linux can be. So you may not agree with everything that they do, but you can't help but respect them for the way they're going about it. So anybody else?
I have a question. When you install a repo package in Elementary and it's not one of the apps that does the guidelines, does it also warn you if you do that? Is there a warning?
What do you mean?
Like, let's say I try to install, I don't know, like Banshee or something, and from the repo, will it give me some kind of warning because it's not one of the apps that follows the guidelines from Elementary?
I don't particularly know because I haven't looked into stuff that's not Flatpak related. I know at the moment what it just does is that anything that's not curated and just comes from the Ubuntu archives is under a separate list entirely. I don't know. I don't believe you'll get warnings for those, but I haven't checked specifically.
Anybody else?
I'll just say as a developer, I can sympathize with the fact that they don't want to be contacted constantly about broken flatpaks.
Well, I guess we covered that to the hilt. All right. What do you guys got? We got a few minutes left. You want to talk about anything?
I just want to make a observation. Past couple weeks, I've been doing a journal control -F and letting that sit running in a terminal in the background. And I've been going through and checking, just seeing what pops up through there. And it's amazing what you find. It's almost like going through a Windows event viewer and filtering out all the errors and warnings and stuff like that. I'm just kind of curious. I don't really have a repository or a resource to look up what all is going on in there. Some of it, I mean, obviously, none of it is really all that critical because the fact is that system's still up and running. But the some of the stuff that I see, services stopping and starting, that's fine and stuff like that. But let's say, like, I'm looking at this one, it says operator of Unix session 5 successfully authorized as Unix user and blah, 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 blah. And it just, it opens your eyes on what actually is going on your system. And I highly suggest people do that once in a while, just so you can see what application is running where. And I found a couple rogue applications, nothing that was supposed to be or that would be dangerous or anything like that. But I mean, just stuff that got forgotten in the memory cleanup and stuff like that, and gone in and cleaned it out and was fine. But just as a system maintenance type of thing, go through, take a look at if you're running a system D system, definitely use that journal control command. If you're using a system 5 or system 6 boot, I believe it's log var log messages. But I mean, don't ignore what your system's trying to tell you, and you can probably clean out a lot of problems that you might have later on down the road. That's all I have to say.
That's good stuff. So we used to have a manager of our system administrator group that in jest, I'll say that, in jest, he says, don't read the logs. There's nothing good in there.
He's not wrong.
I don't know if I'd want to read the logs, to be honest with you.
I'm not saying do it on a regular, or do it as a point of context to where that's all you're doing.
Oh, I know.
I mean, just
and so that's where you go though when you're experiencing a problem, right? So you go look for the problem. Yeah. So don't read that. There's nothing good there.
So I kind of wanted to go back to Zeb's time at OggCamp. One of the things I heard on a lot of podcasts recently, and this is a point I kind of wanted to bring up, is because OggCamp is looking for new organizers. I also wanted to mention that, for those of us that are looking to organize Kansas Linux Fest, we're looking for people interested in helping volunteer organize. But also find out if you got a Linux conference near you, find out how you can volunteer. Find out how you can help out, or if you can even help organize in general.
Yep. Yeah, there was some opportunities even down itself to help out, like after the show was done, helping clean up and stuff like that. Even stuff like that is, because there's a lot of people that go to the conferences, but when it's time to clean up, there's not a lot of people left over. Just saying.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good point, Tyler, because the two main men who have put OggCamp together for the last 10 years have now done their bit, and they're both retiring. So they really are at the moment at a loss as to who's all going to organize it for 2020. So.
Right. Like we just, a couple of guys here, myself included, we're taking over Kansas Linux Fest because the guys down at Wichita are getting burnt out on it and have been wanting to hand it off for a couple of years now.
Yeah. All right. The last thing I want to bring up before we get into the last word is the GNOME Patent Troll Defense Fund. So they did reach their goal of $125,000. They actually went over it. Right now they're sitting at $137,319. So appreciate everybody donating to that who did. I also don't think that counts the PayPal donations that were given as well. So hopefully they use that and are able to beat the patent troll, and we'll go from there. But who knows? It may be a lengthy battle too.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Rocco, because nowhere on that defense page was there an option to pay by PayPal. And I think anybody who thought they were donating via PayPal, that's just gone straight into GNOME's coffers. That didn't, I don't think, reach the defense fund whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I think regardless, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea how it will work out, but yeah.
I found it surprising. I mean, I can understand why they did it, and I supported it, and I think it's a good thing. But aren't GNOME quite a rich desktop environment anyway? Don't they get, or haven't they recently had some ridiculous millions of dollars in a donation from someone?
I think they did, yes, but I don't know like how that is split up, divvied out. Well, yeah, I mean, I have no idea. So
I think they'd like to keep that money they got reserved for development and bringing people on to work on the development of the GNOME, rather than trying to waste those funds on fighting ridiculous patent trolls.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, we're out of time, but everybody gets the last word. PZ.
If you haven't already seen it, jump over on Jason Evangelo and find out about the greatest OS in the world, Peppermint OS. He did a fantastic write-up. He did an even better write-up showing every one of his laptops and his enormous 49-inch widescreen running the PEP.
Oh, yeah.
Check it out, Peppermint OS. If you've not tried it, you're missing out big time.
And
Zeb, you mispronounced Arch.
No.
And if you haven't heard the latest Linux for Everyone, you can hear our own PZ on that episode. Did a fantastic job of representing Linux in general and Peppermint.
Thank you.
Tyler, last word.
Thanks for the show as always. I had fun playing with Ubuntu Mate. Look forward to talking about my favorite flavor of Ubuntu next week. And once again, if you have a local lug, if you have a Linux conference near you, get involved. Find a way to help out. Find a way to help organize. To help just spread the word about Linux.
Nice. Ayers, last word.
Thank you very much for the stream, everybody involved in it. I also wanted to thank the Ubuntu Mate team for the great work they've done. Such a great system, so many options, so many menus, everything's customizable. It's like, yeah, I think if Plasma didn't exist, I would probably go to Mate.
Bill?
I just want to thank everyone for giving their input and their views today. It really is helpful. I just want to throw some shout outs to Nikolai and Matthew on the QA team with me. Victor and Vlad, who are on the Mate proper team, but do a lot of work in what you see. Michael, who does the forum stuff no one ever talks about. All the forum, he's a huge part of the forum. And Luke, who I mentioned earlier, all over the place, doing so much, and Wimpy. And then my other thing I'm going to throw out is Eric and Nate do DL. And I want to say, I'm going to get it right, DL Extend. I get a wrong thing when I try to say it. DL Extend is so very good. Not extends, extend.
Brilliant.
Close enough. There's an X in there
like
somewhere.
horseshoes.
But,
Tony, last word.
Yeah. As usual, thanks, Rocco, for doing this, and Zeb and Dan and Eric, who muck in and help out when needed. Ubuntu is installed on the laptop. Just
Man.
I've used it recently for a few days, so it won't be too difficult for me this week. So it gives me a bit of a head start. Apart from that, that's all I've got to say. Take care, everyone. Till next week.
Derek?
Thank you, Rocco, for having me again. Welcome back, Chicken. I'm glad to see you back. And have a good week.
All right, Chris, last word.
Slightly unaware there. Hey, glad I was able to be here, as hoarse as I am, and everybody in the chat there, smash that like button. Let's get the show up on the algorithm here, and see you next week.
Bash, last word.
Thanks for the stream, as always, and we will see how Plasma goes.
Very nice. Nate, last word.
Hey, thanks for having me, and thanks for all the nice things everyone said today. This is great. I love it. I look forward to Ubuntu. Haven't given that a spin in a while, and maybe actually writing an article on one of these flavors here pretty soon.
Nice. Dan Simmons.
Thanks, Rocco and Zeb and Eric. Great stream as always. Thanks to Bill and the rest of the Mate team for bringing us Mate. Really appreciate Bill. He not only helps out in the Mate team, but he helps us in Ubuntu and other flavors too. So that's really great. Love to see that. So look forward to Kubuntu next week.
Joe, last word.
Well, thank you as always, Rocco, Zeb, the whole crew here. It's been wonderful. And, you know, I put my money where my mouth is. I showed this off before the show, but I vowed to go strictly Linux-built computers, and there you go. I put my money where my mouth is. So I really do believe in this. It's not doing it as I'm not Michael with a self-indulging promotion that way, but it was just, you know, when you find a passion for something so deeply, and I enjoy doing this and I enjoy building PCs, you know, to me, this is my way of also pushing it forward to hopefully get the word out and have people experience it too. So, but thank you again. Have a wonderful week, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Colin, last word.
Yeah, thanks for the show as usual, Rocco and team. And thank you to Martin Wimpress and team for a great release. And Bill, bit of a quiet achiever there. He's into quite a few things. I can now put my Band-Aids back in the cupboard because we're no longer dealing with these paper cut issues that we've been dealing with all week. So I'm looking forward to trying out Kubuntu this week. I am warming up to Plasma a little bit. Farron's got me warming up to it quite a fair bit with his experimental next. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to trying Kubuntu. I don't normally go in the Kubuntu field very often. It's very rare that I do. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Well, speaking of Martin and the release, did anybody read the release notes with all of the overindulgent emojis that were in there?
Now, if you listen to Ubuntu podcast, he actually said for every one person that like groaned and complained about it, he had 20 people say that they enjoyed it. So he's like, that's my plan from now on. So.
I love it.
And by the way, Bill, I did run through the those key bindings in my video as well. So did check that out. Yep.
Big Pod, last word.
Thank you for having us, Rocco. And while I am a bit warming up to Plasma, it's still gonna be a chore.
Dan Kelly, last word.
Rocco, thank you for the show. You too, Dan Simmons and Zeb. We really appreciate being here, and that everybody have a safe week and take care. And that'll be it.
Chicken.
Well, I'm really glad we picked Kubuntu this week.
Imagine that.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you guys accept it super graciously and realize that it's pretty awesome, and join the dark side.
The dark side.
Eric, last word.
Oh, chicken. We missed you.
Yep.
Good Lord. Yes, super excited about Kubuntu. I mean, it's obviously been my forever distro for many years now. In addition to the backports PPI, I just want to mention for folks that don't like the default panels, check out Latte Dock. It's a lot of fun. It's a really cool application that will let you do some fun things with docks and launchers and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So if you're not digging the default Plasma, give that a shot. And kudos to the Mate team on another great release. And great to see all of you folks here again. This is just too much fun. Sorry I was a little salty tonight. It's just the way it goes sometimes. But,
The salt's in the air.
Did you put a link? Did you put a link to the PPA earlier? Did you?
I did. I'm going to do I'll do a forum post, and I'll just make sure I mention all this stuff in there as well.
Well, just as a side note, I usually remove all of my Plasma panels and replace them with Latte Dock panels. Just saying. Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco, Zeb, Dan, and Eric Anti-Elementary Adams for another great stream. Thank you to all the Ubuntu devs for an incredible release. thank you all for letting me get my fix. And I will see you all hopefully next week.
Barb, last word.
Okay, as always, thank you, Rocco and cronies, Zeb, Dan, etc. And thank you everyone for being part of a great virtual lug. And yes, I am the Mate fangirl.
You are.
Yes.
But that's okay, Barb.
I know.
Peter, last word.
Okay, like Tony, I also have Ubuntu installed.
Oh my gosh,
So
you're
it's
getting as
all
bad
up
as
and
him.
ready.
I haven't even got it yet. I got an hour, 10 minutes to go.
It's good. It's good to see the. It's good to see the blue after all that green. So I want to see if Ubuntu runs Plasma as well as Solus does.
Nice. Vince, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, and your team for doing all the organization for such a great little stream here. Thanks everyone who's on stream as well and in chat for this Linux Anonymous support. I mean, Linux user group. And it's great to see such a great turnout. I mean, people are talking here talking about serious things rather than doing frivolous things like playing games on some other network. Thank you so much, guys.
Oui.
Wow.
Shots
Kevin.
fired.
Zing.
Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up and for the conversation. Thanks, Rocco, for hosting, and everybody have a good weekend.
Paul, last word.
Yeah, thanks everybody for having me on tonight. Is it a coincidence that Barb made it through a whole episode of Ubuntu Mate?
Made it to the last word.
I think you're right.
I love the
Take care,
open
everybody.
sign, Paul. Just saying. It was awesome.
Oh, I got a new one here too. You hear they're going to change the mascot?
Oh,
I love it.
Oh, that's great.
You're the best, dude.
Poor Popey.
Oh, man.
All right, Steve, last word.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'll spend my time saying congratulations, Mark, on such a great articles and a blog this week. Thank you, Zeb, for pushing Jason into that. Thank you, Mark, for giving me many years of enjoyment on being on Peppermint. Have a good night, everybody.
Ricky, last word. You are
You're
muted,
muted,
sir.
Rick. No.
Got nothing.
So
What about now?
Oh, there you go, Ricky.
There you go.
Sorry, my volume was down to parts unknown. I apologize for that. Okay, I want to thank Rocco, Zeb, everybody. Thank you for being here. It was nice being here, and I look forward to being on again for Ubuntu. And have a good night.
Very nice. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you I mean, I know everybody said it, but I really appreciate all of the hard work that goes into these distros, from Martin Wimpers all the way down to the very last person that donates their time to put into this. Bill, thank you for your time as well. If you haven't checked out Linux Spotlight, this past week was Bernard Landauer from Manjaro, which was a great episode, an amazing guy. This coming week, Wednesday at 6 a.m., Mr. Cheesebacon from Jupiter Broadcasting will be on. And that was also a very, very good conversation.
I look forward to listening to that one.
Oh, yeah. He is just one of those guys, man, that you could sit there and talk for 2 hours and not even blink. So definitely a good thing. And that's all we got. So we're trying out Ubuntu 19.10 this week. If you want to try it out, join us. Join us on Telegram or wherever you can find us, BigDaddyLinks.com for all the info. Other than that, we will see you next week. But until then, long live Linux.
Night, everybody.
Buddy.
See you all.
Long live Linux.
Long live
Good
Linux.
night.
See yous.